Welcome to a new program. Today we have with us from Ireland, Theresa. Theresa, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Could you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm from County Derry, Portstewart. It's a little seaside town. I grew up in a family of 5. I'm the youngest of 3 children. My brother and sister, older than me obviously. And I grew up in the Catholic faith with my mum and dad teaching me the faith and praying together. We went to Medjugorje on pilgrimages, and after Medjugorje our faith was even more important to us. We would pray the rosary together as a family.
Great, so you could say that things were perfect in your house?
Well, unfortunately it wasn't all roses and butterflies. My mum and dad both entered the marriage with a lot of baggage that wasn't healed, and so there was a lot of tension in the family and there was arguments. My dad would turn to drink for relief whenever there was stress going on. So I suppose that created a lot of confusion within me, and I was unsure of who I was or why I existed really, and it made me quite shy as a child, and even I remember being too shy to even say good morning to my teacher. But I kind of covered it up, and I felt the responsibility to be like a good girl, and would kind of put the mask on of a joyful child.
So going into the teenage years, when you started high school, there was all this tension in your house. You said you were very shy. Did you turn to the Lord? Did you turn away from the Lord? How did those teenage years go?
So I suppose in my early teens, I struggled in school. Like, even I would have left, like my friends, I would have let them kind of, make fun of me. I would have kind of participated in myself, and I would have let them, belittle me. And, I remember even cringe at this, but like we were in a group of friends, and I would let one of the lads throw me into the bin, and like I just had no idea of my dignity, of my worth, and I had no idea of God's plan for my joy. And I really would have, I started then to deprive myself of food, became anorexic, and I just didn't believe that I was supposed to exist, that I actually just simply wanted to die. I didn't believe that there was a plan for my life. And in all this, I remember going to my grandparents' house, and my granny, in her lovely wee Irish way, was like, "Oh, just pray to the Holy Spirit." And I remember I did start invoking the Holy Spirit in those times, and I remember things did start getting better. My mum found a counsellor for me. She brought me to various retreats as well, and things started to improve. And I remember praying a lot of novenas at this time as well, especially during exam time. My faith was more about comfort, that God could comfort me, that He could help me to fulfil my will, instead of me, asking Him what He needed from me. So I suppose it was a superficial relationship in that sense.
At any point, when you say that you were anorexic and had all these problems, did you ever think about suicide as an option?
I knew deep down that God was the only thing that was important, like that He was there, and I knew that I could never do anything like that because of the prayer that had gone on, and thank God through the grace that I had received, and I was receiving the sacraments at the same time, but living like a double life. So I suppose God protected me from any of that type of thoughts, but I just didn't have the will to live,
So you're living the sacraments, you were going to confession and to Mass and everything, but none of that, you said it was all superficial?
I suppose there was a great struggle really between good and evil like that, and I was going to the sacraments and everything, and received comfort from it really. But yeah, I suppose it was superficial, and that it didn't go down. I didn't realise down to the core that this is the only thing that is important really in life, and I was torn by what society and the world had to offer, and you know, seeing my friends living in another way, and I didn't really want to reconcile, you know, I didn't really want to live my faith as deep because I thought it was strange. I didn't think it was something normal to do, and I already felt like I wasn't normal, let's say.
So how did things progress? Did you finish high school? Did you go to college?
Well, I mean, I suppose in the last year really of school, I had started to drink every weekend, and Friday and Saturday night became my main motivation, you know, to get through the week. And I suppose, like, yeah, I continued living that double life that I was living. I was going out on a Friday night, getting drunk, Saturday morning getting up, going to the mass with all the old ladies. Sunday, you know, going to mass as well, Saturday night, having drank the night before. And I suppose I continued. I did come to my senses too a while. I was getting very frustrated with this, and I did find then like a theology course to do in university in Scotland. So I decided to, you know, go for that, and I thought I had all these resolutions to, you know, be a better person and you know, get out of that life of, you know, just living for the weekends really. And I did live that for a while, but then, you know, slowly went back into that way and lived, you know, all the 4 years of university was going in and out of, you know, that double life, drinking, going to mass. I couldn't manage to live my faith and my life as one. It was kind of two separate things.
Did you feel that fulfilled you? Going out, drinking, getting drunk, did that make you happy?
It was such a quick fix. It was only a quick fix, and it was just an escape really, and it just made things worse. It made me feel worse about myself, like, you know, you're tempted to do something by the enemy, but then he accuses you then after it, and I just felt like so worse after nights out, and just, yeah, it just took away any self-esteem that I had, and it was low at the same time, so it would have just contributed to even worse thinking about myself really.
You mentioned that you would go out and drink. Did you at any stage turn to drugs?
Yeah, so after university, I was kind of at a loose end then as well, and I did start experimenting with light drugs, but I quickly realised I was on the wrong path, thanks to, I suppose, the upbringing that I had in the faith as well. And you know, my conscience was pricked by all of those prayers and graces, and I thought I better look at where I'm going really, and I did decide to just move to Italy and just start afresh there.
Can I ask why Italy?
I actually have no idea. It was one of those things that I suppose I was quite an impulsive person and would have just gone off and done, you know, I suppose it was desperation at the same time. Desperation to just, you know, I was fighting between doing, you know, the things of the world, and then I was getting sucked more and more into it, and I was like, right, I just better, I had some Italian friends, learned a bit of Italian, and I thought, I'll go to Italy, because, yeah, that was my kind of idea of a new life, really.
And was it the new life in Italy that changed things?
Not at all. Like, things just got worse, to be honest with you. Like, I suppose I was in a really youthful city, university city, and you know, there was just, I knew then it was like I better, you know, take a real look at where I'm going. So I went to visit my brother, who was in Cenacolo Community, and it was a big massive festival called the Festival of Life, and it happens like once a year in July, and houses from all over the world from the community come and meet, and there's lots of moments of prayer and adoration in front of the Blessed Sacrament. And I was just feeling so tired and so unsatisfied with everything that you know, the world had offered me. And I met my brother. He was serene. Before that, he had been drinking, he'd been taking drugs, and that's why he entered into Cenacolo Community. And so I really recognised that true joy when I was there, and I thought, I definitely want some of this. and I asked to do an experience, so I arranged to do an experience of 1 month. When I got there though, I was in the girls' house, and I realised I really need to have more healing. A month is not going to be enough. So, you know, that turned into 6 months. 6 months turned into a year, and then 5.5 years passed by in Community Cenacolo.
What was it in community that made you realize that you needed more healing? Or what was it that made you start to heal?
Well, the structure of the community, their pillars are prayer, work and true friendship. So you'll be sharing the truth about how you're really feeling and not just putting on the mask. So living that life really did, it was healing in that, even just this stable, normal life with no masks on. And through that I did realise that I realised 3 things: that God loves me, that God has forgiven me, and that I am actually good, I'm a good person. And whereas before just all the downfalls that I'd had, I'd thought I'm worthless, there's nothing good about me, you know.
Did that discovery deepen your relationship with Jesus?
Yeah, because I suppose it's centred around Jesus and the Blessed Sacrament, so everything that we do, like our daily life, would be centred around the prayer. And so like moments of prayer, especially like Mother Elvira would teach to feed your soul before you feed your body, so we'd get up and pray the rosary and share about the gospel and share about our own lives maybe before breakfast. And then even just in the work, like I was learning to do things good, but not just for my own pride, but because like that's serving God. So I was learning, like, you know, that was bringing meaning to my life, just to learn how to serve God and my brother and sister. So everything really became a prayer. So I was able to then, like, my life was so double life, but then I was able to just put it into one through Cenacolo and through the teachings and through the prayer, learning to actually live everything in prayer, and everything is in contact with God.
So, you're there in the community for 5 years. What did you do after you were in community? Did you leave?
So you're given really a chance to, once you've gone through the healing walk and everything, you know, you're encouraged as well to give back. So my way I wanted to give back was to go to the missions in the Cenacolo community. I asked to go to the missions, and what we do in the Cenacolo missions is to look after, you know, kids that have been abused, street kids, their children who've maybe been taken off their parents because their parents were deemed unfit to look after them. So you're dealing with, you know, they've been through even prostitution, they've been used and abused by their own and exploited by their own families. So off I went to Brazil. I was sent after about a year that I'd asked to go. So went to Brazil, and it was a dream come true really, because I'd always wanted to go abroad, but it was like a dream for me, but this had actually happened to me. So
did you have to learn Portuguese?
Yeah, so I was with the teenagers in the teenage house, and had to be very quick on my feet and learn the language very quickly, because if not they would have completely run circles around you. So that was very interesting, and at the same time now it was a very deep experience, because most of the girls that I was, you know, in the house with looking after, they had all been abused as well by maybe even by their stepfather, by their own father or whatever. So just even in particular one girl who had been forced to traffic drugs across the city of São Paulo in her school bag by her own mother. She was such an inspiration, because when her mother got out of prison and came to visit her, she was just treating her mother with such love and such acceptance and forgiveness. And in that girl, Dara, she was just such an example of moving forward and not being stuck in your own self-pity, or just, she had such a zeal for life, and I realised that I didn't have that, and I had to make a choice then to either, you know, ask God for that or stay in my own sorrows, you know.
And you asked God?
So I did. So I asked God just to give me that thirst for life, that the kids that I could see that they still had it, even though they've been through so much. And like slowly, it's a slow process, I suppose, but He's done so much healing in my life, and I can see it even in my family. Like He's done a lot of healing for my brother and sister, for my parents.
I can clearly see that you're happy now, but I have to ask the question, is it worth it? Are you happy now that you've found the Lord?
Yeah, thank God now. He's given me such a joyful life. Like after community, I went out to work in a charity for a year, but I was still thirsting for that community life, and now I'm in a community here called Holy Family Mission, and it's filled with such joy because of all the good and faithful people that He's put into my life. And I know, as it says in the verse from the Bible that really helps me, is from the book of Jeremiah, and it says, God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans for peace and not for disaster, plans for hope and a future." And I can definitely witness to that and I know He's going to do more as well. So I'm definitely happy in myself and happy to do God's will now.
Would you say that Our Lady had any role in your conversion or in your life now?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like even through the early, trips to Medjugorje as a family, I think we started going just after my first communion. So I really felt that motherly protection, and even before nights out, I knew what I was going out for, but my mum would have sat down and prayed the rosary with me, and I would have reluctantly joined in, but I know that really did guide me, and that Our Lady was there, and she's not afraid to be in those even, moments where your dignity is at a low,
Would you say that there was any book or anything that helped you in the faith?
I suppose I remember whenever I was after university, I was living in London for about a year, and that's whenever I started experimenting with the light drugs and everything. And I remember being on the metro, or whatever you call it, the tube, and I was reading St. Theresa of Avila's book, The Interior Castle, and I just remember that hitting me so hard, because it was just basically laying out what life, the meaning of life, and it just stripped away all the the falsities and all these attachments that I had, and it just completely stripped it all away. And I realised everything that I'm living for is worthless, and the one thing that is important is not at a priority in my life at this moment. So that gave me a bit of a shake as well to, get out of the life that I was living.
You have the opportunity right now to talk to a lot of people, especially young people. What would you say to someone who is living in the same situation you were in? Anorexia, low self-esteem, drinking, drugs. What would you say to someone who maybe feels useless and that they can't get out of it, that there's no way out?
The lies that this world wants to tell us is to go for everything else that will fill you up. But God has spoken the truth, and He said that He does have a plan, and He's given us that promise. So I've learned in all my experiences through the difficulty that God is in that, and that He can turn anything round, and all we have to do is reach out to God. So even the weakest prayer, He will hear that, and He will transform it and make it, turn our lives round, even in the most difficult situations.
Thank you so much for sharing your testimony with us. I'm sure it will help many people.
Thanks so much. God bless.
Thank you, Theresa. Well, friends, there is a way out. Sometimes we fall into this well and we're there, stuck in the middle. We see the bottom and we see the part above us, blank, and we think that we're going to be stuck there forever. But there is a way out. and that way is God. So grab on to that hand that stretches down into the well. Hold on tight. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us.